Okay, so I've just received a download. In the book of Proverbs, it says that a hungry man will eat, it's like hard bread or something, and it'll taste sweet, something like that. And then it says that a full stomach loathes honey. And my spirit doesn't feel like Astaroth this time. I think this time it's Lucifer. Yeah, like Shukradeva, because I was sort of. It's probably both. Everything gets. I won't tell certain details, but so he elaborated that what this means is that those who are spiritually hungry will they will love, they will cling to stale old truths. They'll cling to things that aren't really that effective or nourishing to the soul, because they're desperate. And yeah, they will get fed. Like if someone's like this is really interesting because nowadays, people will go to Christian church when they're kind of almost like at the end of the rope. Maybe, and the implication is that they got spiritually lazy or they got in over their head spiritually. Um, so yeah, then he goes on to elaborate that on the other hand, sometimes people are just they've learned enough and they're filled with light. And there's no point in teaching them more. Like me, I learned and got filled with light, and then I kept being hungry and kept being hungry because a little bit it was a bit of greed, spiritual greed, which is not a great thing, depending. But well, it depends. It wasn't really that much greed in my case. It was like I felt highly motivated. I think I thought that I could make a difference, and sure I can make a difference. I can. Anyways, so I mean, if I was super greedy or something, I wouldn't have lasted till now. And I think this is just for my personal sanity. This is an important thing. It's a little bit, I was straddling the line of greed and pure intentions, and I was kind of wanting to advance myself faster than is maybe really that natural. I had some good intention, but also some yeah, some greed mixed in, some hatred, some will, some more negative will. But I'm not egotistical, and I think because of that, my shadow is a lot more potent, and I don't fall into spiritual traps that are set for people exactly like me. And yet, I've begun to purify my intentions lately, in the past year. And I think some of that's just the increasing frequency of the planet. But I feel very driven. I feel very I feel I'm on the right path in a lot of ways. And if it's only that in the world there needs to be someone like me. But I think the path of okay, I'm seeing it. It's like the path of will is also in a way separation from the divine. Or it's not even separation. It's this weird situation of you're maybe a little bit separated. You're not absolutely united because people who don't care to have a will, and just crave unity with the divine. Those people, yeah, they'll experience divine moments. They will experience, and it doesn't matter if they believe God is a person or an energy or whatever. All religions kind of have the same thing. This is why Manly P. Hall was sort of against Crowley, maybe, even though Manly P. Hall talked to Poke Runyon at one point, who leads an offshoot of the OTO, but at least that's what Poke Runyon said. So that opens up a ton of questions. to me, for me, about the scenario. But yeah. Anyways, so when someone is spiritually full, because why do people come for knowledge? They come for knowledge, not really so. I think this is an interesting investigation of, um, within this verse is an interesting investigation of why people even come to spirituality in the first place. They will get hungry for faith, for the divine. They will, absolutely. I've seen it myself. But this is like a spiritual law. Now, what will that look like? Sometimes people get hooked on ideologies and things like that. There's different qualities of what is the spiritual nourishment of something. And then, besides that, there's this thing of like, okay, so I wanted to get somewhere, and I wanted to get somewhere double quick right now. And so part of the reason I've had a lot of trouble, or had in the past a lot of trouble, is because like I was gorging and gorging and gorging myself on spiritual energy, and every delicious bite, I just wanted to taste that height of it again, and that's not healthy. It's not healthy to stay on the mountaintop forever. And that's what I tried to do. So now I'm in this scenario where it's like, now I've come down from the mountain. I've come down from the mountain, and I hold the knowledge, but also I have for some time. I think I'm over it now, but I came down from the mountain, and I had spiritual indigestion for quite a period of time, and I think I still have a little bit, or not indigestion, but slow digestion. Like, it takes time. But I would say that I've been able to optimize a lot in that way. But see, this is also why I'll tell things to people and then they'll get sick. Is because I'm coming with a spiritual energy that's very, very high and very, very penetrating. And yeah, it makes people ill. It's too powerful for them. And I've thought about people. The thing is, people have kind of said to me as if I'm some kind of goetic plague vector, some soul attachments, whatever. And then that's destroying. That's basically I'm a liability to the people around me. I don't really see that, to be honest. Some people get ill, but the thing is, the highest and wisest of my friends, I don't know, it's trackable. Even some of the wisest of my friends will either have a resistance to talking with me, or will get ill, or something. But there's friends that I have that they just are able to handle it. They're able to digest it. If I was some goetic plague vector, which I think the people, I'm making a joke here, but I think people thinking that way about goetic beings, and or just my mentality about magic and whatnot, I think is a bit problematic on different levels. A lot of good work being done with demonolatry right now. Okay, there's a lot of edgelording. There's a lot of posing, but if you go into these things with egotistical intentions, I think edgelording belies some egotism. It's one thing to dress all goth and things like that to convey something that you feel. A lot of people on the earth are now sort of asterisk beings, but a lot of the goetic beings I don't think are even particularly necessarily. I don't know if they're exactly asterisk. some of them. Like, for example, Stolas. I don't get that he's this great Asura. Also, there's the fallen angels, which I would even say fallen, like Devas. To me, I think Devas is sort of analogous to angels, but I wouldn't say Asuras is exactly analogous to demons. And I think this is a really interesting thing to think about because, so the Christian notion of demons covers a lot of just simply lower beings, and you know, there's boots, there's Peters, there's what are they called? Pisachas. They're like flesh eaters, flesh-eating raging demons. They even have zombies. So there's a bunch of different particular classes that are just not Asuras. I think we should not understand Rakshasas as Asuras either. Or perhaps they're one particular Asuric race. But then there's also lion Asuras, leonine Asuras. And then there's also the Naga. I think the Naga should be understood as maybe like 60 to 70% Asuric, 30 to 40% Devic. Or perhaps just to understand them as an Asuric race, since they're known to rule some of the lower realms, is just their literal elevation is enough. But all these different beings, even the Asuras, have spiritual lessons to teach. They're just, it's just a different system. I don't want to go too far into being like, I don't want to say as if they're not the bad guys or something. It's not. It's just I want to throw some complexity in the mix and say, hey, there's more to it, basically. One thing is, I think with angels, angelic Devic beings, they will tend to impress upon you the need for obedience and humility and meekness and all these like beatitudes type thing. Sure, okay, but I think okay, as souls, we are so powerful and so much bigger than what we have right here in front of us. At least some of us are. Yeah, like I don't love some of the solar Greek mystery bent of Thelema. I've been exploring a more lunar way. Like I could maybe even describe some of my work as like a lunar Thelema. But I've started working with the sun lately. So, but yeah, I guess back to the original topic. Yeah, the taking in too much spiritual energy at once, the normal pattern is going to be like you have an experience, a powerful experience. Some people have that once in a lifetime. That's pretty normal. Now Paramahansa Yogananda Paramahansa says that breathing with the prana yoga method for like 3 breaths is the same. It is like an entire lifetime of spiritual progress. I think that's a little bit more of a metaphor than anything, but I think it holds true. That's one thing. That's why I'm really big on yoga, especially like prana can increase your ability to digest spiritual energies, and the more you can digest and hold spiritual energies, the more you can just work miracles in your life. And I'm not saying manifestation. It's not so much about manifestation. I think the best way to describe what you actually like get out of it materially, which if you're preoccupied with that, you might as well not even do magic. I mean, not the thing is, it's not that you can't get material benefits out of it. Absolutely you can. But I think the more you focus on material benefits, the more you're going to miss the point where the magic actually is, and it'll be challenging. And so I think this is something that I find a little bit frustrating about the manifestation crowd, is I feel like they're passing up the real gold. And life could be an adventure, but instead it's like grinding in the low levels of the video game to buy, I don't know, a house or a car. Karmically purchase a house, a car, the right partner that you want. I will say manifesting the correct partner is the funny thing is that's one of the hardest things to do, I think. But it's also super important because that's such a powerful mirror of who you are and what you're doing and everything else. So yeah, if you get the wrong mirror, if you get the wrong sort of flow between you and someone else, it doesn't work. Another funny thing about this, and I think this happens to some people with manifestation, I've heard of it actually, is they get so good at manifesting because they get good at detaching, which is the point. But then they receive the things that they want, and yeah, they get sick of receiving. Like I've heard that some people that get really good at manifesting will get really depressed because it makes everything feel meaningless. That's I think the people that do that were probably yogis in previous lifetimes, and the suffering in their life was intended. I've heard of this just like once or twice about people getting this good at manifesting, but apparently it's more common than that. I think sometimes people like this were yogis in previous lives, and the suffering in their life was meant to make them detach and let go and cling to God, basically, literally or metaphorically. I mean, to literally on a spiritual level cling themselves to some higher being, or more even more metaphorically to sort of just cling to higher ideals and to let go of the material illusion. But instead, such people are trying to manifest themselves a house or whatever. And yeah, they'll still find the same suffering because their spirit guides are going to make sure that they pick up where they left off in the previous life. Their spirit guides are highly motivated to get them back on track. And especially if someone was like a yogi or something, or a saint or whatever, their spirit guides are going to do everything in their power to destroy their possibilities and whatever, so that they can at least keep, stay steady, I guess. I would even go so far as to say that a lot of the deep state manipulation stuff is mostly intended for like the younger souls. This is a little bit something I'm chewing on from watching an episode of Kapil Raj's show, because he was talking about young souls, and I thought his take on it was really interesting. He was saying someone who's on their first lifetime. I think it's more like someone who's on their 100th lifetime versus old souls who are on their 10 millionth lifetime or whatever. I also think some cults will talk about how like, oh, we've all been everything. I don't believe that. I don't think that's true at all. We've all been kings and bureaucrats and aristocracy and soldiers and butchers and gardeners and we've all been every occupation, every possible. I don't believe that personally. I think we've all been a lot, but I think a soul will tend to um, learn patterns early, and just stay on them, because a pattern is just so powerful. Once you do a pattern once, you'll probably just want to just do iterations on it, and that over lifetimes we're going from someplace to someplace. It's not to a particular destination, but experiences and what have you are being aggregated, and then you're going in, you have a trajectory. It's not like I think sometimes people take the idea of reincarnation, and yeah, the times do affect us. We are beholden to the times. We are actors on the stage, but all of us have we have the rule. We have our particular roles. Like back in the day, actors would be, they would do like one type of role, or even just do one character in a play that would get played over and over. I think it's more like that old form of acting. Now, and you can even see it today, like in method actors. A lot of times these people have, really severe psychological issues, because changing persona to such a level, unhinges them, and yeah, it's not good for you. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think we change from lifetime to lifetime a little bit, but even our faces don't change that much. Like if you were to see a photo of yourself from the previous life, it would be like a little bit different. It's not like, oh, we're next lifetime I might have a round face and chubby cheeks, and no, it doesn't work like that. The physiognomy is actually basically a record of what we are as a deep consciousness. And I'm talking even like the bone structure. I'm talking about that even, someone can do some hard living, and their face can sag, and no, it's not that. I mean the structure of the face even is a record of like who we are at a deep consciousness level between lifetimes. So yeah, but then I think it's typically people are going to, at least in like the modern times, they might have like, okay, when they're young, they have some spiritual experience, but it doesn't actually have to be explicitly spiritual. It can be, sometimes people will be, I've seen this with communists, actually, that they'll be really excited about it, about an ideology, or politics in general. I've also seen it with Republicans. They'll be really excited about that, and that'll drive them, and that'll energize them. Why does it energize them? Even though it's simply politics, but the republic is an idea, and behind it is divinity, or behind communism is an idea, and at some level behind it is divinity. Um, you know, and by touching and tapping into that, a person is galvanized, a person is fed in their spirit, because there's divinity behind it, there's energy behind it. And I don't know, maybe Marx is channeling one divinity that's separate from another divinity that Plato channeled. It's quite complicated. Divinity has all kinds of shapes, and you can even go and say, but what is the functions? What is the programming of divinity? And there's a lot to know, So yeah, I would say most people could stand to have try and be more. I think people could stand to explore and really grapple with doubts, and just grapple with divinity, with the divine energy in a very intrinsic way. And I think people don't do that, and they could, but I think it's very hard for people to invite that kind of even while I'm talking about jnana yoga, I think it's very hard for people to voluntarily want to invite that kind of suffering into their life because it is an enormous suffering. Jnana yoga is an enormous amount of suffering that you have to hold in your consciousness for a long time, and that suffering is the brain, is the mind expanding, is the energy body expanding to hold spiritual energies, and most people can't even do that. So, and this isn't. I'm not saying that with vitriol, I'm saying that just matter of factly. Um, so that's like level one, I think, almost. I mean, some people, there's also love of God, and that just simply loving God. Um, that there's something that's bhakti yoga. Yeah, bhakti yoga I think teaches you to open yourself up and receive the divine energies, but you don't have to like have. I think what it is instead of using the mind to receive the divine energies, it's the emotions, it's the heart. Um, and I think that oh wow, that's a big discovery for me actually, because according to Zoroastrianism and the Bone religion, Zorvanism or the Bone religion, both of these traditions, Zorvan, he emanates the Lord of the Demons from his heart, and the Lord of the Devas from his head. So this is kind of the opposite of what I learned in Christianity, actually, is that, the difference between salvation, between heaven and hell is, I think it was 6 inches, the head and the heart. I never took that seriously, but it's funny because they're saying a heart love of God is what holds the salvation, whereas Zorvanism, which Zorvan I think is basically the same as Vishnu. Krishna even says that my energy is identical to the energy of death and time. So, and of course, Zorvanism's whole thing is he is the superior, he is the higher god that is higher than Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu, because the true god must be above duality. Um, he must be above. I don't say that in a non-duality way. I don't say that in a like a Advaita Vedanta sense. I say that in the sense that the true God must be above good and evil. Not that, good and evil like don't not see, this is a tricky thing where Advaita Vedanta I think is a really great, like, I think let's say like Vedic Vaishnava or Shakta or Shaivist stuff. I think that stuff's a bit complicated for someone who doesn't know it. Like if someone is coming from like a Christian background or something, Advaita Vedanta can really be a huge upgrade, because understanding non-duality, I think it's very true in a sense, but I think that there becomes a point where it is true that we're connected to God and that we're all made of the same soul stuff, and that there's something intrinsic between all of us, and that I also believe that there's an all-pervading energy that doesn't necessarily I'm not sure if it has its own intelligence or consciousness, or if it's just sort of like if basically the level of consciousness it has is good vibes and everything will work out. And not to deride it either. It's just I think I do have some feeling that maybe it has almost that there's just an idea I toy with sometimes, that maybe it's somewhat automatic and reactive to us as individualized consciousnesses. So I do believe in such a force. In Vaishnavism, it's talked about that this all-pervading energy is simply the external, sort of it's called the external effulgence, but the idea is that like God is a light, and that this all-pervading energy is the light emanating from Him. It is the brightness of the light, basically. Um, and then that's like the monad. I think, okay, yeah, I'm gonna say Platonism. I think Platonism we got directly from aliens. So yeah, basically, I won't go into that. Maybe, but yeah, this is some of the most powerful, oldest stuff we really have. That we know that we have, type thing. Especially if it comes from Egypt most originally, because Egypt, at least according to Plato, it goes way before recorded history. Even also, if we believe in what Plato's saying, we could even make the guess that Egypt goes back farther than Vedic culture. That being said, Vedic culture, I don't know if it's fair to say that Vedic culture is directly descended from Egyptian culture. I don't know. I don't think they're that similar, to be honest. We can say things like Sekhmet and Durga are, similar on their front appearance, or that Shanidev and either Shanidev or Shiva are similar to Anubis, and different other connections like that, or Garuda and Horus. Yeah, okay, maybe to some extent. Actually, I think Sekhmet is the same as Simhika, but I don't think this is because the one of the cultures is descended from the other. I think it's because there's just some reality to these beings, and that both cultures independently knew what these things were. So that's my take on that. Like, also lizard people, statues of lizard people or things like that all over the world. Lizards being figured into their mythologies and stuff. Did one culture beget another and another and another and another? I just don't see the evidence for that there's one civilization on the earth that then was the father of all other civilizations. Like mine and Aztec civilization are maybe somewhat similar to Egyptian civilization, but maybe they're very similar. I don't know. But there's other civilizations that just aren't that similar, like the Near East. India and the Near East kind of feel like one patch. India, Iran, the Near East, the Sumer Valley and everything, and then or what about what was going on in, like, what about the Celts? Well, that was a bit of a tangent. But yeah, those who are starving will cherish stale bread. Those who are full will loathe honey.